she was not ready to submit herself to her husband. So what do we see Vashti? Because this is a spirit. And we ought to learn from this book that there is spirits that operate in the body of Christ. She was a queen. But we see that she was having a spirit of rebellion and dishonor. So she carries the spirit of rebellion and dishonor. The spirit of rebellion is the one that makes even the people of God to go astray from giving allegiance to their maker, or even following the law that have been set, because there are also laws and ordinances that have been set, and through disobedience and through rebellion. You know, rebellion, it is withstanding the said law that have been set to give you guidance so that you may remain in the precepts of the king. So it is coming and it's standing and withstanding the laws and rebelling, going against what have been said and the orders that have been set. So this is the spirit that Vashti had. There is also this lesson that we can learn about, because she was beautiful. But when we come to Esther, the other name for Esther is Hadassah. In Hebrew, it's a Hadassah, meaning a myrtle tree which is very beautiful. But when it comes to the interpretation of Esther in Persia, it means a star. So Esther had two things. She had the inner beauty, and also she had an outer beauty. So what God usually regard, as far as we are concerned, being the children of the kingdom, God usually regards the inner beauty. What is the inner beauty that Esther had? One thing, she had understanding, and she had wisdom, and she had discernment. Those are the things that comes and contributes to the inner beauty of any person. But when it comes to Vashti had the outer beauty. She was very beautiful outside. But inside, there were the components of rebellion and disobedience. There's something also that we've got to learn from the book of Esther, is that it doesn't matter the background that you have come from. Because she came from a very humble background, very humble. One thing, she was an orphan, and she was brought up by her cousin known as Mordecai. So regardless of the background that you have come from, God is able to lift you. And God has got a good plan for each one of us. It doesn't matter where you have come from, the location, or the geographical location, but God's plan usually prevails as we humble ourselves to Him. As we continue, there is also something we're going to learn is about courage. Because when Esther became the queen in that land of Persia, is that she approached the king after getting report that the man Haman wanted to terminate all the Jews in Persia. Because Mordecai approached her and disclosed to her the plan of Haman. Haman was an Agagite. There's a time I told you here that God was very wroth with the Amalekites. Why? Why was God wroth with the Amalekites? It is because that was the first tribe that fought Israel when they came from Egypt. The first one. And you know, they fought them in a very awkward way. Because usually the Israelites used to arrange themselves this way. that the army, there were the strong men, there were the stronger men, there were also the animals, then there were also the wives and the children. And those who are weak will just follow from behind. So what the Amalekites did is that they did not attack the Israelites from the front. They came from behind. And they did things that were very messy. Because they attacked the children and the women. So even the soldiers coming to realize what had happened, they had caused a very great damage. And that's why God told Moses, just recite these words in the ears of Joshua, that I will wipe away the Amalekites from the face of the earth. So it came the time of King Saul, and that was the precise time that God had said. Now it was the time to terminate every Amalekite on the face of the earth. But King Saul, because of still the spirit of rebellion, he preserved King Agag. Agag was the king of the Amalekites. And you remember that's when Isaiah came to King Saul. And he told them, why? Why have you done this? And he told King Saul that rebellion is as a sin of witchcraft. So, you see, whatever you preserve, it will surface one day. You see, he was preserved. And when you come in the book of Esther, you'll find that Haman was an Agagite. So he came from the lineage of King Agag. And here is Mordecai. Mordecai came from the lineage of the Jews. Praise Jesus. So it means that anything that you preserve, and God has already told you to terminate, one day it will resurface. Okay, let's leave that alone. But when we focus to Haman, it shows you one thing. Because Haman still carried the qualities of King Agag. He was very proud. And the Bible says in the book of Proverbs chapter 16 verse 18 that pride comes before a fall. It was him who decided that I'm going to terminate these people who have come. And they filleth over all our land in Persia. And he asked even for the signet of the king, and he was given. So here we learn that pride, it is the one that brings people down. He was full of pride. And even, you remember, when you read the book of Esther, you remember that even the wife of Haman, she was trying to convince him not to attack these people, but he went on with his plan. But at the end of the day, you remember that the gallows that he made for Mordecai, to hang Mordecai, it is still the same gallows that he was hanged in. So never prepare any weapon for anybody in this face of the earth, because if you dig a hole for somebody, you might be the one who shall enter in that hole. And that's what Haman did. So as we continue to learn from the book of Esther, it is that faith and humility moves the mind of God. How does it move? It is because when Esther knew what Haman had planned, he told all the Jews in Persia to humble themselves and fast. And here comes the word that says, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and seek my face and forsake their wicked ways, I shall hear from heaven. I shall forgive their sins. I shall also heal their land. So, through humility, the Jews, they were saved. As we continue, let us see Jesus. Jesus, in the book of Esther, is a deliverer. Jesus is a deliverer in the book of Esther. Okay, let's come to this notion. I just want you to hear this. That in the book of Esther, there is no mention of God. There is no mention of God in the book of Esther. Not even when you continue to study, you'll see that there is not even the mention of the prophets. It is the only book in the Bible that doesn't mention God. But it gives us a teaching of how we ought to live in submission in order to please our Maker. So as we continue, we can see that there is Mordecai. And Mordecai gives us one glimpse that we ought to stand in our belief and principles. We ought to be principled in all our belief, because you remember he was the gatekeeper. But even when Haman will come, he decided that I cannot bow. We ought to be principled that we cannot bow to any idol in the face of the earth. Don't bow to any idol, and be principled. And he was principled, and he had that belief inside him that he cannot bow. And that's how it was. And we can also learn from Mordecai that there is the aspect of waiting on God for God to advocate all your issues. Because he remained at the gate. He remained at the gate, and he spoke of the plan that was there to unseat the king. And it was written in the book of the Chronicles. And one day, God wanted to advocate about Mordecai. And the king could not sleep. He could not sleep that night. And he asked the book of the Chronicles. So if you continue to do good, remember that on the other hand, you are entering in the minds of God. God does not forget all the good deeds that you have ever done. They are always in his minds. And one time, salvation will come through what you have done. I know that you can also remember about King Ezekiel. When he was told that he was going to die, it was the works. It was the works that saved him. And he was added 15 years for him to continue to reign. There are key verses that I want us to look. In the book of Esther chapter 4 verse 14, we can read. Let us read. This is one of the verses, the key verses. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. So, what does this one teach us? That in the position you are, you have been chosen for that destined time for the sake of something or somebody. You have been chosen for a certain task. God cannot choose you for the sake of choosing you. You are chosen for the sake of a certain task to fulfill. Each one of us, we have been not called in vain. Because she was chosen. There was nobody else who could have salvaged the life of the Jews in Persia apart from Esther. And that's why Mordecai was telling her that if you keep silent at this time, then deliverance will come from elsewhere. If you keep silent, if you don't talk, if you don't act, then you'll be counted irrelevant, and God will choose somebody else and perform the mission that you are supposed to perform. So any mission that you have been chosen to perform it with all your heart and give it a vigor that will declare that God has sent you. So we are not chosen in vain. Deliverance can come from anywhere. Even myself, as I stand here, if I refuse to stand, then somebody else will just be chosen and come and stand here and even deliver more than what I could have delivered. So, and that's why Mordecai was telling her that you have been chosen. You are in that position as a time, for such a time